Welcome to the new episode, to the podcast with Liam Carter, who is quite known to everybody, but for some, it's friend, it's son, it's inspiration, and someone's broken heart.
It's a pleasure to be here once again and a different format, and I like that you're coming up with all these new ideas.
Thank you. I mean, the support, yours, it means a lot. You know, when we grow up, you watch the television, you have this big journalist back then. Did you ever have like a slight idea that could be you?
No, never. I mean, I grew up not knowing what to do with my life. I never had like this clear path of what I wanted to do when I grow up. For a time, you sort of go where the wind carries you. At the time it was IT, the boom of IT. I went towards that path for a while. I'm talking about secondary school. But at the same time, I was always interested in current affairs, history, and I got that from my dad because he used to read quite a lot, and he had an opinion about everything, and he was very well read about just about everything. I mean, I come from a very normal family. My mom was a stay-at-home parent. My dad used to work in the docks, but he was very well read, always reading, always with a book in his hand. I mean, the classics, very well accustomed to what's going on around the world. So I got that from him. But actually I was never inclined in moving towards media or public life of any sorts. Growing up, it felt as a distance, this world, media and whatnot. Right up until I did my levels at the time, I was still studying IT, reluctantly I must say, because it wasn't a passion for it. I mean, I've always loved humanities, I loved history and this sort of stuff, but I never got the chance to properly study it, you know. I used to read a lot online. Then it just kind of happened. I don't know how exactly it happened, but I was working another job. I had flunked out of college twice actually. And the second time, I mean, I did very good at my exams, but I just felt I couldn't go on for another 3 years studying something which I didn't like. So I went working. I used to work this office job about 7-8 years ago now. And I was crawling on the web because we had a lot of downtime at this office. And I saw this advert of a new degree course starting in journalism. And someone at the office really told me you should go for it. Oh, this was someone older, but we used to talk a lot, and he's like a genuine friend, which I think turned my life around. I believe that in your lifetime, during your lifetime, you meet 1, 2, or 3 persons who change the course of your life. I think this one was one of them. I think a person, a life experience, or a decision you make change the course of your life. For me, it was this person, because even when I went home, and because I was doing alright at this job, I mean, I was living comfortably. I mean, 19, 20, I forgot 20. I had a good salary. I was okay. I had the record of flunking out of college twice. So when I went and I said, look, to my parents, I'm going to go studying again, they were a bit reluctant. Is this one of your normal sort of things? It will fade out quickly.
Yes.
But then I got to work at a newspaper. It was a shock because very private family. My mom hates photos. My mom hates attention. She hates being in any way linked to a public life. So it was a learning curve for all of us. And then I moved to TV, which was something I always wanted to do, TV, I must admit. But yeah, growing up, I never actually thought about it. I was also very shy growing up.
That's too hard to imagine.
Very hard to imagine. I don't know what happened. Maybe something I ate, or something I drank, or maybe I hit my head along the way, but I was very shy. I remember at school we used to have these prize days, and I never went in for a good part in any acting or whatever. I remember once I was a tree, so I just stood there with my hands like this. So I was never one to be at the forefront of taking a lead in any of in any sort of public appearance. I was also at the back of the squad. I don't know what changed, honestly.
Before you started saying a little bit like you didn't know like what you want to do in life, and I think this is kind of problem of many. So knowing today that you kind of found that passion, what would you say how people can find it?
I think it all points towards education, in my view. We have such a rigid structure of education. I think of myself nowadays as a creative person in terms of doing TV programs, doing documentaries, and creativity is a big part of art. But growing up, art for me, the way I was taught, the way it was presented to me was something limited to the artist, with a nice canvas in front of him, and he's being raised with the good artistic qualities to create something out of nothing. For me, art was never music, poetry, literature, film, TV. It was always seen at a young age as someone limited to the artist. And this was at a time when we used to have art lessons once a month. A guy used to come to our classroom once a month in the primary, and he used to teach us how to draw a man, how to draw a stick figure. I was never exposed to the love of it. Happened quite later due to the internet. But at a young age, I had the wrong impression that art is limited to one form. Along the years, I was exposed via friends, via the internet, via relationships to the other forms of arts, which I quite enjoyed. But again, I was limited in my education to the traditional sorts of subjects, sets of subjects. I believe nowadays we have made a huge stride towards balancing both textbook education and the sort of need for this element of creativity. We're still lagging behind, I believe, but we have done some headway, I think. Apart from that, I used to find the idea of schooling really boring, so I used to always love reading. I used to love reading about just about anything, but I hated the idea of sitting down and listening to someone for 8 hours, 7 hours, 6 hours a day. Sometimes I meet my old school students and they sort of reminisce about those days. And although I do reminisce about the nice time we actually had, I have this feeling of wasted time, of sitting there listening to subjects.
In favor of many people in Malta, I think it's nice that you end up where you are. And very recently, I believe it was a huge deal to be part of debate. How do you prepare for that?
There's no like guy to prepare for it. I mean, I sat there and I watched all of the debates, all of the BA debates since 1986, I think, and I watched them all. But they've changed along the years. Before it was more like you give 5 minutes to the Prime Minister and 5 minutes to the leader of the opposition, and you just sit there in the middle and not really ask questions. It was more like a message to the people, a final message to the people before they go and cast the ballot sheets. So you can't really prepare, because during a political campaign, things are changing quite rapidly. What was the story of yesterday, a huge controversy, today it might be something else. Today it might be Camille, who is the question of the day. So you can't really prepare for that. You have to be ready for everything. It was quite tense too. Obviously, everyone is watching, but I think it went well. I mean,
But I think it's a proud moment.
yes, it was one of. I mean, it is a proud moment for me. I think I'll carry it for the rest of my life. I really enjoyed doing them, all of them, because we had a series of broadcasts. But naturally, the last debate, the final debate, is a prestigious debate, and certainly something which I will look back in the years to come with great pride and yeah.
Yes. Do you read comments about yourself, for example?
No, I feel that if you're going to go out in the public life, you have to take flack. You can't go in public life and assume that everyone's going to love you. You can't go in public life and... Because it's the way people work. I mean, unfortunately, it's the way people work. In Maltese, we say it, grazia. We like that face. We like the way he acts. We hate his voice. We don't like how he speak. So it's natural evolution. It's the way we work, you know. So I can subscribe to the idea of someone going out in public life and thinking that he's going to be loved, or else reacting to every comment that might go contrary to one's beliefs. Like, you think you really have, I mean, you think you have a program which is the best thing since sliced bread, but in reality, outside of your bubble, it's not that good. So, am I gonna go now on these threads and start applying to people who think differently and engage in these sort of keyboard wars? I don't like that. First of all, people are inclined to have their own opinion, and secondly, if it's not something slanderous or I don't subscribe to the idea to keep repeating and commenting on these threads online. After all, people used to do it at their own homes. I remember my family doing it. Maybe someone comes up on TV and they comment. It's normal. Like, I don't like his hair. I don't like her dress. Nowadays, we're exposed to social media. So what my dad said 20 years ago, nowadays it's transparent. But it's normal. Oh, when you're on TV, you're giving up yourself to the public. Yes. Someone told me when I started, first time you sit on the news desk, you're no longer yourself. You're no longer yourself, not in terms of character. You're no longer limited to yourself. You're a sort of product of the nation. It's a way of emerging into public life, I guess, right? Same as politicians, same as musicians, artists.
So you confirm it's like that?
It did change me a bit in terms of the way you conduct yourself. Sitting on that desk, people get this very serious nature idea about yourself, being the newsman. But I've always been one to love. I mean, I love my sense of humor.
Yes.
I love enjoying life. So yes, to a certain extent, when they see you sitting behind that desk, dishing out hard news, hard subjects, hard discussions, politics, my resting bitch face, which someone drew at my attention recently. I didn't know I had it, but apparently it's a thing. People can assume that, yes, you're this very strict in nature, that one has to either get on a specific high horse or anything else, or, I don't know, conduct himself differently during his day-to-day life. In fact, it's something I enjoy seeing in other people. For instance, Keith was always like that. Keith was so, and still is, down to earth. I mean, I know loads of other people like that every day. They're the same guy they see on TV in real life. They're not this whole different character, a nice face and a nice character on TV smiling, but then in real life, a huge jackass, you know. So that was something that I always kept at the back of my mind. Something my mom told me a lot about it. I mean, because people can make you, they can break you at the end of the day.
But you're still very young, and yes, I guess there is some fun behind the scene.
Yes, there is some fun.
Would you go like to the club?
I still go, not like before. Before we used to go more regularly, but nowadays I'm at an age where even some clubs, I mean, you can't go to the same clubs you used to go before, you know.
Yes.
So places you go to change over time too. But yes, I like to believe that I still have a social life.
No, for sure. Where would you like to be in 5 years from now?
That's always a tough one. Normally it's 10, but it is 5 years time.
You can take that if you want.
Still be. I mean, I'd love to be still working on TV. I'd love to be at the national station. For me, it's a dream. It was a dream I never had, but it's a dream now that I have it. I'd love to be there.
Yes.
I'd love to stay there. I'd love to keep working on different things, being motivated.
So we can expect more of your own program, like
Yes,
how you did it previously.
Totally.
Why would you say you doing this at the first place? You like show to people what is really happening? You like to find that truth under the surface, or? What's the
It's a mixture
motivation?
of both, I think. First of all, I think there's a lacuna in as regards to the things we are offering in the local media landscape in terms of TV programs. Now, I'm really accustomed to the British broadcasting scene and also the scene in the US, but mainly the British broadcasting scene and these sort of programs that I like to emulate in terms of style have been going on for quite a while. They're very time consuming, even to film, to get the right people in, interviewees, and to script the whole thing. Basically, it's a bit of a nightmare when you are limited with resources, but I feel that we had an opportunity to show that with the right framework and the international station, we can actually carry out this sort of program. It's nice to present a subject which has been subject to great debate in a different format, in a more maybe cinematic format, in a short format, 24 minutes in total, 6 minutes ad, so it's 30. And it's different, even the dissemination is different. And I wanted to shed some light on the work we do. So, because you meet some people, and even it happens to me, and they say, so we just go in and read the news, and so an hour a day you work, or an hour 30, or you meet someone, what's your job exactly? Do you go just to press conference and write up a report? What do you do? And the journalist's job, depending on where you are working, the medium you're working on, or your specific area of interest. Malta, we don't really have specific areas. We tend to do just about everything. Sometimes you're doing cryptocurrency, someone you're doing a summit on AI, you're covering hard politics, and then you're also covering football or anything like that. So it was an opportunity, I thought. Even the way the program is filmed, the cameraman is following the journalist on about his sort of work. You see him going there, you see him traveling, you see him in a car, you see him observing, you see him meeting people. It's not just, I met you, I invited, let's say we're tackling human trafficking, because it's a subject that we did, human trafficking, and people who come here in Malta dreaming of a better life, but end up being used by, let's just say, greedy employers. I could present the same subject in a discussion program. I get an expert, I get someone who sits at the state agency responsible for safeguarding stuff, and I can even bring a victim of the sad problem. And it's fine to have those sorts of programs. It works, and they are very good programs. But the same subject could be tackled differently, and you can actually, it resonates more to a certain extent with a different demographic. Because we have to also speak about the ever-changing dynamics of our demographics. I think about a lot. You go on TikTok nowadays, and it's just swiping. So the attention span, actually there are studies linking attention span of human beings nowadays, which is far less than a goldfish. Product of the social media and the disruptive technologies, which have been now become mainstay. So I keep all of this in mind. I love a long broadcast. I love having a live discussion, because you can really get out your character in such discussions. But for me it was threefold. So first of all, exposing the role of a journalist in a TV format. 2, it was a different slant to subjects we tackle every day. And 3, something which is more fresh, more akin to the same products we see on YouTube, on Netflix. Some of the best performing stuff on Netflix, original productions, were documentaries, limited series, even docufilms. And before we used to think about documentaries, okay, a World War II documentary, a guy narrating the Allies the Allies' takeover of Nazi Germany and occupied Europe, and just these sequences of cross-dissolved images and this guy narrating for 6-8 hours straight. But the way documentaries have evolved, it's so refreshing. I mean, I think if you go around and you take a sample of 50 people and you ask them what was one of the last things that you saw on Netflix, some of it for sure is a documentary.
Look, if you would be given an opportunity to, you could just pick the person you went for interview. Anybody and why, please?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one, this one. Okay, if we're going by the local standards, for sure, Paolo Buffa was ex-Prime Minister of Malta. And
so there would be some things that you wanted to know more about?
Yes, because he was so there's the Labour Party at the time went through a split. Basically, there was a rift between Paolo Buffa and ex-Labour leader Domingo Mintoff. At the time, it was due to the Marshall Aid. The Marshall Aid was the United States financial aid package to countries, war-torn countries, after the Second World War. Ironically, countries such as Japan, which we all know sat on the other side of the war, got more money from the United States to rebuild their country. And Malta, which was the most bomb placed on earth at that time, before Korea, received little to nothing because the Brits, as a crown colony, got the main package. And they were fighting at the time to get more aid in, and basically Mintoff thought Buffa was being a bit too appeasing with the British, and there was this huge split. And Buffa sort of faded out through history. But he was one of the very first political leaders who championed workers' rights, who championed social justice, which today is a big part of every centre, right or left party, and even NGOs. And it was a tough battle between the two. A battle which historians also write at times became ugly, with slanderous and rebel rousing from said leader. So yeah, that's someone which I would really love to interview, but obviously that won't be possible.
To finish on the high note, maybe you could give like a message from yourself for all the people who are listening. What would that be?
Sometimes we look so hard for motivation when motivation is all around us. In a world dominated by toxic attitudes, anxiety, and a loss of motivation towards going after your dreams. Let this be an opportunity for everyone to discard the ideas of some that you'll never amount to anything, and that you're just another small brick, to borrow Roger Waters' lyrics, in the wall. Go after your dreams, chase them. If you fail, go up again and go again, and never allow someone to rain on your parade, and just keep going. Life has a funny way of turning around.
That's a good message. I think, yes, there is nothing better than living up to your potential, reaching for the skies.
The key in all is positivity, I think. Nothing should keep you away from being positive. I mean, we see pictures of people going through war, going through so many hardships, and they still remain positive, and that should be a lesson for all of us, I think.
Yes, and with that beautiful message, I think for today we stop. Liam, thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure being here with you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you.
It came out a bit.